If you're wondering what's the best way to approach and appreciate a work of art, I have some advice for you. Watch this presentation and see if it helps out. All right, we have a lot of problems today in looking at works of art. What do I think is one of the problems? Well, we're media heads. We live in a media society, and I tell people we are the most entertained culture in the history of the world. In other words, paintings and works of art have to compete with the internet and with the television and much, much more. How can art compete? Think about some of the problems. The way we live right now in our present society, visual images sell things to us. That's their main purpose. They sell things to us and they entertain us. Whether it's the television, the movie screen, or the internet, we experience sound and movement all around us in various media. In fact, some museum directors say that animation is the art of the future. We're very, very busy and we're very fast moving. I think a lot of us call ourselves multitaskers, so it's very hard to find images that can get our attention. Add to that, we love everything that is new, and a lot of the art that you'll be looking at when you enter museums is old. Keeping that in mind, you could ask yourself, is the museum a kind of cemetery, a kind of mausoleum? Here's a quote from Marcel Duchamp, a modern artist. He says that after 40 or 50 years, a picture dies because its freshness disappears. Do you believe that? He says a picture dies a few years later, like the man who painted it. Afterwards, that's what we call the history of art. By the way, the museum guard you see on your screen isn't a real museum guard. He is a polyester resin work of art made to look like a museum guard. So I guess he's dead and the museum is dead as well. When you look at a painting like The Lamentation by Giotto, you're looking at a single image, a still image, that tries to tell you about the grief felt by people around Christ before his resurrection. How can a painting like that, a single image, compete with a movie, which has sound, which has movement, which has special effects, which has photography on its side? So I think most of you have seen very, very vivid movies like The Passion of Christ, and you might prefer them to something as still and quiet as The Lamentation. One of the things that artists have always done is tried to show you the beauty of the human form, both male and female. Well, here's a problem. In our culture, some of the very most beautiful bodies that you'll ever see are trying to sell you bathing suits or blue jeans. So I tell people, take a look at Michelangelo or take a look at Botticelli. They'll tell you something about beauty, but ads for Abercrombie & Fitch will too. Here's a problem for you. We say that to appreciate works of art, you need taste. Well, most of the time, what you need as a consumer is you need to decide what to buy, another form of taste. So if you shop at Walmart, if you shop at Costco, if you shop at Albertsons, you go up and down the massive rows looking at mass-produced objects and you buy labels. Works of art are very, very different. They're unique. They appeal to people in different ways. They're not mass-produced. It takes a very, very different kind of discriminating taste to appreciate a work of art. Here's a problem for you. Can what I call high culture, museum culture, compete with media culture? Look at these two side by sides. Leonardo was trying to tell us about an ideal image of man based on Roman history. It's not nearly as funny as Homer Simpson on a glazed donut holding a remote control. Sorry, Homer, I don't know if I can compete with you. One thing you might try to appreciate works of art is to take the advice of Jean Arp. He was an artist who felt that an adult looking at a work of art needed to feel the same sense of joy and wonder that a child feels when they look at a new toy. So maybe what you can do in a museum when you see a Rembrandt or Picasso is try to feel the way you did when you opened a brand new toy when you were 3 or 4 years old. It sounds silly, But that sense of wonder is what you want to bring to looking at great works of art. I tell people that seeing a work of art really goes beyond just staring at it. To really see a work of art means that you have a kind of dialogue with that work of art, even though it doesn't speak to you. You have to work to see it, you have to think about it, and the harder you look and the harder you think, the more a kind of dialogue opens up. I tell people possibilities open up when you look hard and consider a work of art. One thing that you may need some help with is what we call iconography or symbolism. You'll find, especially in older works of art, that hidden symbols are meant to tell you about the meaning of the work. For example, in this altarpiece by the Master Flamel, do you notice the Easter lilies in the vase on the table? They are a reference to the resurrection of Christ, and in fact, the smoking candle tells you that the life of Christ is about to burst into the world when the candle bursts into flame. That's iconography, and we have more of that to learn in the course of our class. Modern art can be very difficult, as you can see by looking at the Three Musicians by Picasso. It's full of distortions. It can be very, very personal. It doesn't look like the real world. But what it can do, it can deal with experiences and perceptions that are difficult or even impossible to put into words. Put it another way, if you like photography, Picasso may disappoint you, but he may show you things that surprise you and delight you in ways you never expected. Here are a few more problems to think about. Can you ignore the value of works of art when you see them in a museum? If you know something is worth millions and a security guard is standing in front of it, can you look at it the same way you'd look at a drawing by a 5-year-old on a refrigerator? Actually, you should. They're both works of art. Don't let the museum guard intimidate you. Can a work of art be relevant to your life and to the problems that you need to solve in your life? I know from talking to my students, you have a lot of pressures, you have a lot of planning, you have a lot of things to take care of in your life. Sometimes art doesn't seem relevant, and that's a problem. Finally, can you trust your personal taste, your feelings about works of art, and not be overwhelmed by the opinions of others? As a teacher, I'm not your authority figure, and even the experts and the art historians are just people trying to act like tour guides and tell you what they know about works of art. Ultimately, it's your taste and your opinion that really matters. Nobody can tell you what you truly like. Finally, I'm a big believer you need to look at actual works of art to really experience them. This is a beautiful digital image on your screen of Sunflowers by Van Gogh, but if you see a Van Gogh in a museum and you see the texture, even sometimes the artist's fingerprints, the painting will come alive in a way you can't imagine just looking at your screen. Make the effort to go to actual museums and galleries and see works of art in person. So here's my final advice. To appreciate art, be prepared to slow down and have that dialogue I told you about. Be willing to look very, very carefully, and along with looking, learn about the background surrounding works of art. Remember that I'm your teacher, but that doesn't mean I'm the ultimate authority. I have my opinions and I'll tell you about them, but you're going to have to decide what you really like and appreciate. If you follow that advice and you take your time, your appreciation of works of art will grow and grow over time, giving you lifetime pleasure.